I still can't believe it, even now, months later. My wife has a secret son, a son she kept from me for over a decade. And I found out not from her, not in a tearful confession, but by overhearing her whisper it to her sister, late at night, thinking I was asleep. My entire world, everything I thought I knew about my life, my marriage, my wife, just imploded in that single moment. Was I wrong for not confronting her immediately? Should I have just walked out then and there? Tell me, honestly, if you would have done the same thing. It all started, I suppose, like any other love story. Sarah and I met in college. She was this bright, vivacious art history major with a laugh that could light up a room. And I was just a quiet engineering student, completely smitten. We dated for 4 years, navigating the ups and downs of young love, career aspirations, and figuring out who we were. Our connection felt deep, real, and unbreakable. We talked about everything: our dreams, our fears, our pasts. Or so I thought. We got married 2 years after graduating, a small, beautiful ceremony surrounded by our closest friends and family. Life was a dream. We bought a cozy little house with a big garden, adopted a goofy golden retriever, and started building our future. We often spoke about having children, sketching out names, picturing our lives as parents. Sarah always seemed excited about it, even more so than me sometimes. She'd coo at babies in the supermarket, talk about nursery ideas, and browse parenting blogs. I never once suspected she already knew what it was like to be a mother. Not even for a second. We had a comfortable routine. I'd go to work, she'd work part-time from home as a freelance graphic designer, and we'd meet for dinner, sharing stories from our day. Our evenings were filled with laughter, shared meals, and sometimes just quiet companionship, reading side by side. Our lives felt complete, uncomplicated, and genuinely happy. There were no red flags, no suspicious calls, no odd disappearances that might hint at such a monumental secret. Sarah was an open book, or so I believed. She'd tell me about her family, her childhood, her relationships before me. Nothing was off limits. Or so I thought. The night it all came crashing down was a Friday. Sarah's sister, Emily, was visiting from out of town. Emily and Sarah were incredibly close, sharing a bond that always made me a little envious, but in a good way. They'd often stay up late, sipping wine and talking for hours. I usually joined them for a bit, but that night, I was exhausted after a particularly grueling week at work. I excused myself around 10 p.m., telling them I was heading to bed. I kissed Sarah good night, hugged Emily, and promised to join them for breakfast. I drifted off almost immediately, but then, sometime in the dead of night, a noise woke me. It wasn't loud, just a hushed murmur from the living room. I usually sleep like a log, but I guess something in the tone, the urgency, registered even in my paddled state. I rolled over, trying to go back to sleep, but the voices, Sarah's and Emily's, kept me on the edge of consciousness. I wasn't trying to eavesdrop, not consciously anyway, but then I heard it. Sarah's voice, a raw whisper, laced with a pain I had never heard before. I miss him, Em, so much. He'd be 13 this year. My heart did a bizarre lurch in my chest. Asterisk 13. Asterisk, what was she talking about? My mind, still half asleep, tried to make sense of it. A family pet. No, the way she said him. It was too personal, too human. Emily's voice was softer, comforting. I know, honey, I know you do, but you made your choice. It was the right thing to do, given everything. A cold dread began to spread through me, chilling me from the inside out. I lay there, absolutely frozen, my breath catching in my throat. I couldn't move, couldn't speak, couldn't even close my eyes. I just listened, my ears straining, every nerve ending screaming in silent alarm. Sarah sniffled. Right thing, maybe for him, maybe for everyone else. But what about me? I'm his mother. How could I just give him up? Give him up. My blood ran cold. The words echoed in my head, forming an impossible puzzle. Asterisk 13. Son, mother. Give him up. Asterisk it slammed into me with the force of a physical blow. Sarah had a son she gave up. A secret son. For 13 years, she had carried this secret, lived with this pain, and I, her husband, the person who shared her bed, her life, her dreams, knew nothing about it. The world tilted on its axis. The comfortable reality I had built with her shattered into a million pieces. I felt a visceral shock, a betrayal so profound it stole the air from my lungs. I lay there, pretending to be asleep, listening to bits and pieces of their hushed conversation, each word a shard of glass piercing my heart. They spoke of a difficult time, of being young and scared, of a desperate decision made under pressure. They mentioned an ex-boyfriend, a brief whirlwind romance before we met, and a pregnancy that blindsided her. The details were vague, fragmented, but the core truth was undeniably clear. My wife had a child, a son, somewhere out there, and I had no idea. The rest of the night was a blur of agonizing silence. I didn't move, didn't make a sound. My mind raced, trying to process this monumental revelation. Who was he? Where was he? Why did she keep this from me? All the while, the woman I loved, the woman I trusted implicitly, was just a few feet away, her hushed sobs punctuating the quiet night, unknowingly destroying my world. When dawn finally broke, I felt like a ghost. I got up, showered, and went about my morning routine as if everything was normal, a mask of composure firmly in place. Sarah and Emily were already up, making coffee, their faces a little tired but otherwise calm. Sarah smiled at me, a soft, loving smile that now felt like a cruel deception. I smiled back, the effort feeling like a monumental feat. We had breakfast, made polite small talk, and laughed at Emily's jokes. All the while, the secret festered inside me, a toxic presence threatening to consume me whole. I wanted to scream, to shatter the illusion, to demand answers. But I couldn't, not yet. I needed time to think, to understand, to figure out what to do. The weight of this secret, now mine as well, was unbearable. I carried it with me through the day, through Emily's departure, through our quiet evening together. Every touch, every word from Sarah felt tainted, shadowed by this hidden child. I looked at her, truly looked at her, searching for clues, for any sign that she was hiding something so immense. But I found nothing, just the woman I loved, the woman who now felt like a stranger. So that's the situation I was in, and I had to make a choice. My entire marriage, my perception of my wife, was built on what felt like a foundation of lies. Before I tell you what happened next, I want you to pause and comment below what you would have done in my shoes. Would you have confronted her immediately, regardless of the consequences? Would you have tried to gather more information, to understand the full scope of the situation first? Would you have just walked away? What would your first move have been? I spent the next few days in a fog, going through the motions of my life, but my mind was constantly racing. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat properly. The image of a 13-year-old boy, my wife's son, haunted me. I found myself searching online for information about children given up for adoption, trying to understand the process, the emotional toll it takes on a mother. I was desperately trying to piece together a narrative that made sense, a narrative that didn't paint my wife as a villain, but also one that acknowledged the enormous breach of trust. I considered confronting her 100 times. I rehearsed scenarios in my head, imagining her reaction, her explanations, my own fury and pain. But each time I hesitated. A part of me was terrified of what I would find out, terrified of shattering the fragile peace that still existed between us, terrified of losing her. And another part of me, a small, irrational part, hoped that maybe, just maybe, I had misheard, that my sleep-addled brain had twisted something innocent into something catastrophic. But deep down, I knew that was just wishful thinking. The words were too clear, the pain in her voice too real. The turning point came a week later. We were sitting on the couch, watching a movie, and a scene came on where a character confesses a deep, dark secret to their partner. Sarah teared up, and I saw her discreetly wipe a tear from her eye. In that moment, something inside me snapped. I couldn't bear the hypocrisy, the continued deception. The weight of the secret was crushing me. I paused the movie, turned to her, and my voice, to my own surprise, was calm, almost detached. "Sarah," I started, "we need to talk." She looked at me, a flicker of apprehension in her eyes. "What about, honey? Is everything okay?" I took a deep breath, trying to steady my trembling hands. I overheard your conversation with Emily the other night, about your son." The color drained from her face instantly. Her eyes, usually so vibrant, widened with a mix of shock and horror. She opened her mouth to speak, but no sound came out. She just stared at me, frozen, like a deer caught in headlights. The silence in the room was deafening, thick with unspoken truths and years of hidden pain. Finally, she whispered, You heard." Her voice was barely audible, raw with emotion. I nodded, my gaze unwavering. "Every word, about him being 13, about you missing him, about giving him up." Tears welled up in her eyes, silent trails tracing paths down her pale cheeks. She looked away, unable to meet my gaze. I can explain." And then, the floodgates opened. She confessed everything. The story was even more heart-wrenching than I had imagined. She was 19, fresh out of her freshman year of college, when she met a charming, older man. It was a whirlwind romance, intense and fleeting. He was manipulative, she admitted, and quickly disappeared when she told him she was pregnant. Alone, scared, and ashamed, she felt she had no other choice. Her parents, strict and conservative, would have disowned her. Emily was her only confidante, her rock through the darkest time of her life. They decided on a closed adoption, carefully selecting a loving family for her son. She described the agony of giving him up, the physical pain of childbirth compounded by the emotional devastation of letting go of her baby. She explained how she had tried to move on, to bury the past, to build a new life with me, a life free of the shadows of her past. She said she loved me more than anything, that I was her safe haven, and she was terrified that if I knew, I would leave her. She had been living with this guilt, this secret, for so long, and it had consumed her. She pleaded with me, begging for my understanding, for my forgiveness. She said she had always intended to tell me, but the right moment never felt right, and the longer she waited, the harder it became. My initial reaction was a complicated mix of anger, pain, and an overwhelming sense of betrayal. How could she have kept this from me for so long? How could she have built our entire life together on such a monumental lie? But as she spoke, as her raw pain poured out, a different emotion began to surface: empathy. I saw the 19-year-old girl she had been, alone and terrified, making an impossible choice. I saw the mother, who had carried a secret burden for 13 years, aching for a child she couldn't have. It didn't erase the betrayal, but it softened the edges of my anger. We talked for hours that night, long into the early morning. I asked every question that had been churning in my mind. she answered with honesty and a profound sadness that was heartbreaking to witness. We cried together, we argued, and eventually we began to understand each other's pain. It wasn't an easy conversation, and it certainly didn't solve everything, but it was a start. The truth, finally out in the open, was a bitter pill to swallow, but it was also a cleansing one. The aftermath has been a long and difficult journey. We decided to go to therapy, both individually and as a couple. It's been crucial in helping us navigate the emotional wreckage. Sarah is slowly coming to terms with her past, with the grief she suppressed for so long. She's started a journal, writing letters to her son, a way to process her feelings and acknowledge his existence. We've even discussed, very tentatively, the possibility of trying to find him one day, when the time is right, when we are both emotionally strong enough to handle whatever that might bring. For my part, I'm learning to reconcile the woman I fell in love with, the woman who kept this immense secret, with the woman who now stands before me, vulnerable and brave. The trust, once shattered, is slowly, painstakingly being rebuilt. It's a fragile process, 2 steps forward, 1 step back, but we're committed to it. Our love, though tested in the most profound way, still exists, still fights to survive. This secret son, once a destructive force, is now an undeniable part of our shared history, a shadow we must both learn to live with, and perhaps, one day, embrace. This entire experience has been the hardest thing I've ever faced. It's taught me about the hidden depths of human pain, the complexities of love, and the enduring power of secrets. It's also shown me that even when your world implodes, there can still be a path forward, albeit a difficult one, towards healing and understanding. It's a daily effort, a constant conversation, and a commitment to radical honesty. Like this video, if you were on my side, if you think I handled this mess with grace, or if you just feel for what we've been through. Subscribe for more stories like this, because sometimes life throws curveballs you never see coming. And please, share your final thoughts on this whole mess in the comments section. I'm eager to hear your perspectives, your judgments, and your advice. I'll see you all in the next story.